Hello everyone. Check 1 2. That was a bit loud there. I am determined to make the sound better this week. No more of this crap. Music being louder than my voice. My voice will be louder than the music. Even if it turns out it's distracting me and disturbing me and going all distorted. Well, let's hope it doesn't, because I'm prepared. The song playing just now, it's a song from the internet. I don't know who it's by, but it's called Donald Trump. So I thought I'd give it a little play. It is a pretty crappy and basic song. Much like Donald Trump's presidency, eh? Oh! So of course in this episode, this is part 2 of the truth about the FBPe movement. If you listen to the last show, you will know that the whole point of this show was to uncover the truth on the FBPe Twitter movement. What is FBP? That stands for Follow Back Progressive Europe. They are an anti-Brexit campaign which has developed on Twitter. It has been around since about the beginning of November. I say around, it has been around since the beginning of November. I know this as fact. In part 1, the last episode of this podcast, I talked about where the FBPE group came from. Who are they? Where did it start from? What is the point of it? I've had lots of feedback about part 1 of this. It was thanks very much for the feedback. Hopefully in this episode we can go a bit deeper into the topic and talk about it really good. So before I go into part 2, remember you can follow me on Twitter. I love chatting, especially about politics. My Twitter handle is at Stevie C. Smith. You can find me nice and easy. I'm everywhere. Everywhere. You can also come and join the Discord channel. You can find that on my Twitter page. And I've got a website, worldoftrash.co.uk. If you need to contact me about anything you hear on this podcast, all emails to podcasts@worldoftrash.co.uk. Now, I am sure my mic is up too loud today, but I don't know. Sorry, can you hear that? Must be playing with the microphone. I'm just going to battle through it this week, but I need some background music so you don't hear me breathing, because there's nothing worse than sitting listening to someone breathe. It's a total pet hate of mine. So I hope everyone's doing fine today. I hope we're all doing fine and dandy. And I'm going to launch straight in to question 4. We're going right into part 2. There's no fluffing this week. We're just getting right in. This week, it's only been a few days. Hey. Question 4 in my investigation into the truth on the FBPE movement was, what is the goal of the FBPE movement? Good question, eh? What is the goal? What do they want? Why was this group set up? Do they have any ulterior motives? Or do they have any motives in general? Well, let's find out, because with a little amount of searching, I was able to get the launch message of the FBPE movement. Now, the original copy of this message I found was in German, but thankfully I was speaking to the person who wrote it, who is Hendrik, and he supplied me with an English translated version that was not translated by me using Google, so this one makes sense. You will be able to find this on the podcast page, by the way, or my Twitter page. I'll make sure that it's posted everywhere so you can see it. So, it begins. Progressive Europe is the title. We've got 3 bullet points and then a little paragraph at the end. So, bullet point 1. That's the name of a group of pro-EU tweeps, aka Progressive Europe. Follow back Progressive Europe, FBPE. Hey, now we know what the PE stands for. How cool's that? We're learning. Bullet point 2. We organise Twitter storms to fight the far-right parties in the European Union, support the resistance, that's hashtag the resistance, and defend democracy worldwide. We also support attempts to stop Brexit. So there we go, that's a nice little bullet point there. Let's read the third one. We want to connect all pro-EU tweeps by organising follow back Saturdays. Now, a tweep is people like you and me who love using Twitter. Follow back Saturdays, I've never actually seen a follow back Saturday, but I guess it worked because the movement's huge. This infographic's finish with the paragraph that says support us and other pro-EU accounts by typing the hashtags #FBPE and #followback pro-EU. See you next Saturday. So this was obviously posted, I believe it was on the 3rd or the 7th of November. From this image, it's really easy to see that the name of the movement is actually Progressive Europe. Follow back Progressive Europe is the de facto meaning, I would imagine. And as I said, this infographic was released in German, Dutch, English and more languages. They release everything because they're a Europe-wide group. They do their best to communicate with everyone. So obtaining this infographic... Oh, that's the best one yet. Obtaining this infographic image was great as it allowed us to scrutinize... My God, you can tell it's a Monday. As it allowed us to scrutinise the wording and spot any discourses that may be hidden within this message. We can see that this started as a pro-EU, anti-Brexit movement, and that really is all that it was. It was an anti-Brexit movement. The aim was to create a Twitter storm using the hashtags FBPE and followbackPE or whatever it was. You just heard me saying it. Within the text of this message, we do see one political message of sorts, although they do not take aim at any specific party. The message, it's a very obvious one. The message is simple. We must revolt against the hard right-wing parties. Now, this is a cause I very much support, as I am a super left sort of guy, and I think we should stand up to not just the ultra-hard right, not just the hard right, but the right in general. Because it's the right of politics that's making everything bad for the global society. After reading the infographic, I then asked myself the question, where did this image come from? So, I've maybe already answered this. I got it from Hendrik, who's one of the people that created the movement. But back then, before I got that from him, I'd done a small bit of due diligence, you know, just to make sure that this image was not just stolen from somewhere and changed, or just appropriated from another group to make to look like someone else to just send people on a wild goose chase. But I am happy to report that the images were at least created and definitely just distributed by Hendrik Claessens and the rest of his FBPE group, which are also part of the group #TheResistance. And they have made sure to make this message as accessible as possible, because as I said, they've released it in a lot of different languages. They've really done a good job. So that is the goal of the FBPE movement. The goal is not to promote centre parties. The goal is not to start political arguments. It's not for people to argue that David Cameron is better than Nick Clegg. It's not for arguing that Corbyn should be sacked and Blair should take his job. It's not for any of that. It's not for party politics. It is just to fight the right and to fight Brexit. Now, the fact that we've got people that are hijacking this hashtag to fight the left, that is the massive alarm bell. That is the siren. That is the sign that's saying, look, these people have hijacked this movement because the movement had no political basis. I mean, I believe that Brexit should have been a cross-party thing. It should never have been appropriated by one group. But that is what happened. The Tories appropriated it. Now, we can't change that. We've just got to work and try and, I don't know, change it. I don't know what we do. I'm not a politician. I'm just a voice. I'm just a voice on the internet who looks into things a bit closer than the average voice on the internet and reports back to his own podcast. Ta-da! Let us move on to question number 5. Did the FBPE movement have any agenda other than fighting Brexit? So with question 4 answered, we now know where the hashtag originated, we know who created it, and we know why they created it. From this, my only question I have left, well, it's not my only question I have left, maybe at the time of writing my script, but from this, the only question I have is, why are people from mainland Europe putting so much effort into trying to steer how the people in the UK are thinking? Now, while I totally support the FBPE movement, you have to separate yourself from these movements to really analyse them and see what's happening. Before I started investigating this, I was a bit worried because while I agree with the sentiments, the group and what is happening in the group bears a striking resemblance to the reports of what Russia have been doing and their efforts to subvert political opinions via social media all over the world. As paranoid as that sounds, though, I can confirm that the people behind, well, to my knowledge, the people behind FBPE and the resistance are not the Russian state. Now, lately, I've been reading a book, a Russian book. It's called, it's a Russian geopolitical book. It's actually, it's hard, you can't find it. It's not on sale in English at all. The book is called Foundations in Geopolitics. Now, it is reported that this book is the go-to book for Putin and his geopolitical advisors and how they should control the world so that Russia can control the world. So it's a Russian book. So I had to find this in Russian on a website, and I had to use Google Translate. Now, thankfully, the book is written by a scholar, so it directly translates easily. But yeah, this book is very scary, actually, because when you look at it, you can see things that are happening in the world now in that book. And the book's telling people how to do it. Well, it's telling the Russians how to do it. But within that book, there's Russia's plan for the UK. What they have to do to the UK so that Russia become the global superpower again. For the UK, their plan is very, very simple. The UK must be separated from the EU. That's it. That is the view that is in this book. I believe it's Alexander Chagrin that wrote it. I could be wrong on that. But I mean, from looking at that message, and we look at the Russia's geopolitical stance, which is to separate Britain from the EU. So when we put that one together and the one from before together, I think we can safely say that the FBPE group are not some sort of clandestine effort to control our views by Russian state. So that was cool. I did worry that this might have been some sort of really high level just argument, because I mean, one of the, like, lately I've been reading a book. What was the book called again? Let's quickly look. I am crap at remembering names of the book. I have been reading Media Control by Noam Chomsky, right? In this book, he talks about how society must be segmented into groups and smaller groups and atomized into groups so that people can that people can be controlled. And I mean, this was always one of my worries, is this what's happening with the groups? And I think that's happening now. I think the FBPE movement, I mean, I'll get back into that in a second. Because if we analyse that original sentiment or that original message, two things are clear. The FBPE movement's goal is to fight ultra-right-wing politics like UKIP, Alternative for Deutschland, the Freedom Party of Austria, and the swaths of these backward political parties that are allowed to gain footholds in Europe thanks to the mess European politics is in. Whether that is due to mismanagement or external influence, who knows, but it is happening. These right-wing parties have been allowed to rise up and somehow get a foothold within European politics. So it's something we've got to look out for. But that's what they stand against. I mean, it's really that simple. The FBPE movement just wants the EU to be together, and it wants to fight the right. That really is it. So during December, and at the time I was conducting my research/investigation, I was in the belief that we could identify that this hashtag had been hijacked by the centre of UK politics. The hijacking seemed to be mainly supporters of Lib Dem. Now, I say this as it seemed that most discussions that were being taken part in this hashtag were being twisted into anti-left, anti-Corbyn, pro-centrist arguments. The same sort of... I mean, it was a bit disturbing because they were using this supposed centre-left arguments, but while they were making those arguments, they were using the rhetoric that you would hear in the Daily Mail, or just straight from the Tory mouth, which just slags Labour off. And that doesn't make sense to me, because that is the complete opposite of the FBPE movement's aims. They didn't aim to fight the left, they aimed to fight the right. So why would they be fighting a left-wing party? That doesn't make sense. I mean, all these cross-party arguments do is waste time. They do nothing. They just take people's time up and they stop them talking about how to change Brexit. And I'm pretty sure that is the aim. That is why people are hijacking these discussions. They want to atomise the groups. They see that they've got this anti-Brexit groups with anti-Brexit sentiment. And there's people that want to control these situations and they want to control what we think. So what do? They atomise us. They atomise us more. Now, what we've seen within this FBPe movement are attempts to atomise the FBPE movement. First, it was the centrists. Well, I don't think they were centrists at all. There was supposed centrists because they were making centre-right arguments that could only benefit the Tories. They don't benefit Lib Dem in any way. They just benefit the Tories. But before I could really work out who was trying to take over the FBPE hashtag and why, I had to jump in and speak to people. So over December, I had been testing the waters and engaging as much as I possibly could using my personal left-wing political views. These engagements helped me get a real insight into what was happening in regard to the people hijacking the FBPE hashtag and the views they were promoting. There is, or was, a group whose aims seem to be to destabilise the Brexit debate by bringing the debates, by changing them. It's hard to word this. Basically, they make the debates toxic and aggressive. So if you were supporting Labour, they will attack you. If you were supporting anyone, they will attack you. I mean, these accounts, they will just sit and post anti-Labour / anti-Corbyn rhetoric into the hashtag all day. One of the most popular tactics I witnessed was an attempt at reframing the whole anti-Brexit debate into, as I mentioned before, a straight-up fight between the left and everyone. The best examples of this are the hundreds of accounts who will, every day, post constantly into the hashtag their sentiments that, even as a Labour member, I hate Corbyn, and all that sort of anti-Corbyn stuff. I mean, this has went to the point where we've got people in the hashtag saying they support Labour, but at the same time they're trying to blame Corbyn for Brexit. Not just for anything, but for the whole of Brexit. Now, let's just stop a minute and just think about how ridiculous that claim is. Because Corbyn is the leader of the opposition. Brexit was started by David Cameron, and the Tory party could have scrapped it. They didn't need to do it. Never forget, Brexit is a 100% Tory activity, and it is 100% Tory's fault. If ever anyone in any of these discussions are trying to spin you in another way that it's someone else's fault, again, be aware. Because that's not the truth. The truth is that Tories are to blame for Brexit, and no one else. Little rant there. And I mean, anyone that invests that much time, because there are accounts that literally are just sitting posting from like 7 in the morning to 12 at night, anti-Corbyn stuff within these anti-Brexit hashtags. And anyone that invests that much time in that much activities, they've got to have an agenda, in my opinion, anyway. When we look at where the hashtag started, it did not have a goal to target the left of politics and throw as much hate as they can towards that. The movement was to combat the ultra-right. Sadly, but thankfully not on the whole, the FBPE hashtag had become a platform for the most vocal anti-Labour rhetoric, to the point some of them come across as a PR stunt itself, and it's really obvious. I mean, I say became because that's changed, thankfully. In the last week or so, the hashtag has gotten back on track, and these agents, these people with agendas, seem to have moved on. And I mean, they've created another hashtag now, which we'll talk about in a bit. But it got to a point during December that we had people using this hashtag now to fight Labour and to fight Corbyn, as opposed to the right and the ultra-right. I mean, and as I said, they were literally repeating the anti-Labour / anti-Corbyn lies of the Daily Mail and Theresa May, and they're all lies that can be easily proved as incorrect. So I digress back into my investigation. After noticing the large amount of Lib Dem supporters that were using this hashtag, I decided to go further and to go out of my way to engage with them and find out more. What I was faced with was a combination of hardline activists and a lot of bots. At some points, I could post a tweet that supports Labour and goes against Brexit. Within minutes, these tweets would be swamped with replies telling me how bad Labour was, how much Corbyn was to blame for Brexit, as I said before, it's crazy, and the general rhetoric that told me aggressively that the left of politics is all wrong and only the Lib Dems / centre of politics has the answers to this Brexit mess. And this was just crazy, but thankfully it started to die down. But then, as we got to the end of December, the start of January, I noticed one person's name popping up more and more and more. And it just got me aware because this guy knows how to play the media game. He knows how to play the PR game. And he's super vocal against Corbyn, super vocal against Brexit, and super vocal for the centre of politics. And that man is Tony Blair. So, initially I thought, I was like, right, is this FBPE hashtag legit? Is it created by, like, a government or someone that's trying to control the debate? Or is this actually people who want to create debate? After a bit of research, it turned out FBPE was people wanting to debate. But within the hashtag, we have many people trying to destabilise the debate. And as I said, they're trying to atomise it. They're trying to split everyone up and have them debate against different things. So then they get split up and debate different things. All the while, the actual Brexit debates are not getting dealt with. The most latest one is the people, they're changing from FBPE to, I think it's FEPEU. And they are speaking up for not remain, but retain. Now, I actually agree with this, the retain argument, because I don't think we can stop Brexit, but we can retain things. Like, we can retain single market membership, we can retain the customs union. My only issue with this is, this group has a definite agenda. They've set, when you look at the FBPE movement, they didn't have much, like, verified tweeters. They didn't have much influencers following it. They had a few, but they didn't have many. This new movement that has started, it is totally British. It's totally people within the media that have created this, and they have a different message, a slightly different message, not a totally different message. They have a slightly different message, and I can't see why they would do this unless they were wanting to divide and conquer. And it just comes back to the writings on Noel Chomsky, where he talks about atomizing people and groups being broken up so they can be controlled easier. That's what seems to be happening. So, like, be aware of these other hashtags. Everyone is much better, even if they don't all share the same view. It is much more productive that everyone who wants to talk about the Brexit debate and talk about either stopping it or retaining powers and rights, they should be talking about it together. Because if they talk about it separately, they're just going to, it just atomizes it, because that turns one group into two. Then, and within that groups, there'll be people that are for and against both sides. So that's another two groups. And you see how it goes. Groups become groups. It all becomes atomized. It all becomes segmented. And this is how control happens. This is how the governments use media to control. This is Propaganda 101. This is what happens within propaganda. Divide and conquer. So, it's nearly time to conclude my small investigation. And as sad as I am happy because I've got an advertising and communications exam in 2 days. So I should really be revising hard for that. But no, I am here investigating the FBPE movement. The FBPE movement, and forgetting how to talk, it would seem. But question 6, and finally, should you follow this, aka the FBPE movement? To conclude my small investigation, at some point the FBPE hashtag has well and truly been hijacked. Or at some point it had. Who it's been hijacked by, I don't know. It could be the Liberals, it could be the Centre, it could be Tony Blair. Heck, it might actually be the Russians, but we don't know. All we know is that people are trying to hijack the anti-Brexit debates, and they're trying to turn the anti-Brexit groups into smaller groups, then into smaller groups, till eventually the groups are so small that the voices are so quiet that nothing happens. And everyone is just wasting their time. There's a lot of subversive stuff going on, which is very, very bad, and people should look out for it. Like, as I said before, if you see anyone promoting even the left or the right and shouting about the other side within the FBPe hashtag or any anti-Brexit hashtag, be aware. Because the Brexit debates should not be about left-right bickering. It's about Brexit. This is a country thing. This is a whole country thing. This is not about half. This is not about half the country. If half the country are left to dictate it, then tyranny of majority sets in, and you're always going to get half the country who is being screwed over. And that's not cool. Everyone needs to talk about it. Everyone. And everyone needs to be aware of this subversive behaviour that's happening to try and steer your views. Because there are many people out there that are ignorant to this. Man, I'm just not able to speak today. There's people that are ignorant to this and they don't realise they're being played. They see someone they trust, an influencer as it's called, posting a view. They take that view and appropriate it, then they post it out. Then someone else does the same. And they don't realise the whole time they've been subverted into that view because people are just playing them. Because the people in control know how to play people. They know how emotions work, they know how to split people up, and they know what to do. So be aware of it. The FBPe hashtag was not created as a way to protest the left of politics or the right. It was created to fight Brexit and to fight the ultra-hard right, aka Nazis. And if there is one thing Labour and, well, I've got SNP here, but the SNP are pretty much centrist, aka I would say they're even towards the right, but that's another story. If you see them being slagged off, it's not right, because that's not what the movement should be for. And that fact alone shows us where the hijacking has taken place. Because if you see the political debate being launched for no reason, just out of nowhere, question it. Why are they doing it? Why are these people trying to have you fight about the Tory party and Labour party, or that Corbyn is or isn't the man, when Corbyn is or isn't being the man isn't the problem, because he's got nothing to do with Brexit. He didn't create it. This method, or should I say these methods that are being used to take over the hashtag, as I said at first, it was very reminiscent of the Russian social media tactics we hear about, but it goes a lot more fundamental than that, because it's just a clear divide and rule happening. With the use of subversion, they just split everyone up, so the Brexit debates fizzle out and die, so the shouts turn into talks, the talks turn into whispers, and the whispers turn into nothing. Subversion is, at its core, a very nasty tactic. Subversion is used to influence people's views and change their minds on a topic or cause, or even a person. It is one of the core elements of propaganda, warping people's minds, people that are set in their ways. And it's not fair for them or democracy on the whole, because people should be allowed to have their own view, even if these people are easily led. It's not fair. People should not have their views warped without them actually realising it's being warped. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, and you might be sitting thinking, who would be subverted? Who would have their thing warped? Who could have their opinion warped without realising it? Stevie, that's just ridiculous. No. I've been subverted. I've been led into believing things that might not be true by governments. Everyone has. It's just the way it is. We can't help it. Subversion is there, and it's something you have to be aware of. And that's all I can say on that, because I'm just going on a subversion rant. So should you follow it? In closing, yes. But be aware of what causes or Twitter storms you support, as there are groups out there who are trying to hijack groups, God damn it. No offence to rubes out there, of course. But yeah, there are people out there who are hijacking groups that may mean well, but they're transforming into a platform for their political message to be used in the right or wrong way. Using the original topic to lure people in, like anti-Brexit, and then using that concept to poison someone's belief into another belief or ideology, subverting them to their other side, whether it's right or wrong. That was a bit of a rant there. Just be aware of groups hijacking Twitter things. It's late on a Monday. Yeah, just be aware of groups who are subverting Twitter causes, so they're taking people that might think something different one way and they're making them think something else. It's not fair. Just be aware of it. I don't know what my point is now. I've totally lost my train of thought on that. The FBPe hashtag was taken over. People, well, it wasn't taken over, but there was a concerted effort to destabilise it. And this is still going on today. As I said, first it was the centrists, the fake centrists. Then it was the Blairites. Then it was a fake attack by Momentum, quote unquote, which again, that was just the same people as before, trying to make it look like the left was attacking the FBPe hashtag. It's not what was happening. There are people who are trying to split the left Labour and like people like me from the FBPe hashtag. They're trying to split the Corbynites and the Labour people and the Labour centrists away from each other so they can't debate Brexit together. That is what you need to be aware of. Just keep all the anti-Brexit debate in the same hashtag, within the same group, and trust me, it will help. It will stop the discussions being destabilised. Groups being atomised and split up into smaller groups will not help anything. Question everything. Even me, Stevie, question me. Because, hey, who's to say? I might be working for the Russians. I might be working for Tony Blair. How do you know? How do you not know? But don't. I'm just a voice on the radio who looks into these sorts of things. But you don't know me. And you should treat everything else you see on the internet with the same level of doubt, because you never know who's trying to subvert you. You never know who's trying to appropriate your view into theirs, or who's trying to spin what and who into what and where, turn you into their puppet. Don't let it happen. Remember that the FBPe hashtag was created to fight the hard right of European politics and to fight Brexit. It was not created to blame Brexit on Labour, Corbyn, Blair, Maggie Thatcher, anyone. It wasn't for that. It was for fighting Brexit. I still follow the FBPe hashtag, and I'm still pretty active in it. As I know, there's good in it. And I can see that this is a good cause. And they're one of the first people that started one of these first groups. And their group has been attacked, and it still is being attacked. And people need to look at this. Because the fact that this group is being attacked so hard, and that there's other groups trying to copy it and create their own FBPE groups that are for retain as opposed to remain. Guys, you're just doing the government's job for them. You're splitting the debate up, and the more split up this debate is, the less impact it will have. And people like Owen Jones and the other journalists who are going on the other hashtag side, I don't know if they know what they're doing. I mean, Owen Jones, I know he's a reader of Chomsky, so I know he's probably read the same book I've read, and he should understand that what he's helping is the atomization of these groups. So people, just try and keep your groups in one place. Because if the groups are all over the place, how the hell are we supposed to fight together? It's what people used to say in war times. They will divide and conquer. Don't let them divide and conquer. Stick together and rule. So my name's Stevie. That concludes my investigation into the FBPE movement. I know that there's some bits of me talking in this episode that might seem a bit weird. That's because I've got dyslexia and sometimes I can't read my own notes. But hey, if you've got any questions, remember to send them to podcasts at worldoftrash.co.uk, or you can tweet me directly, Stevie C. Smith, on Twitter. I will be back next week where I will be talking about the CIA's UFO files, because I've been wanting to talk about this since like the start of December, and I've got a load of CIA UFO files, and I've deliberately not read them, because what we're going to do is I'm just going to load them up, we're going to read them on air, and we're going to see what happens. Because why not? It's something fun and something different, and it stops me talking about politics. Everyone, thanks for listening. See you next week. Remember and subscribe or whatever. Cheerio!
Min-i-nvestigation.